sentenced to death for crimes against humanity. But is Sheikh Hasina's conviction justice for victims or political retribution? Some 1,400 people were killed in a crackdown on protesters last year under the orders of Bangladesh's former prime minister. Now safe in exile in India, has her conviction brought any closure to Bangladesh or left the country divided and on edge? I'm Andrea Sankey, and today's newsmaker is Bangladesh. Determined to be the mastermind and principal architect of a deadly crackdown on demonstrators, Bangladesh's International Crimes Tribunal has handed former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina a death sentence. The country's former Home Minister also received the death penalty, leaving a disturbing legacy for the leaders of a party who spent decades in power and were largely credited with overseeing Bangladesh's economic miracle. Sheikh Hasina's Awami League and its supporters say the sentences are nothing more than political retribution. But for those who rose up against Awami League rule, it's the justice the country needs to begin a new chapter. Here's a look.
A death sentence for Bangladesh's former Prime Minister. The country's International Crimes Tribunal convicted both Sheikh Hasina and her Home Minister, Asaduzzaman Khan, in absentia for crimes against humanity, both sentenced to death. The court said the deadly attacks on anti-government protesters last year were widespread and systematic, and Hasina had given an order to kill.
Sentence of death.
Following the announcement, celebrations erupted inside and outside of the courtroom.
If the families of 1,400 martyrs who shed their blood and gave their lives are a little bit relieved, that is the only takeaway of this prosecution. We successfully completed a judicial matter in favor of the people. We freed this nation from a culture of impunity. This is our success.
Tensions in Bangladesh have risen in the lead-up to the verdict. Dozens of arson attacks and crude bomb explosions have been reported. Hasina's banned Awami League party called on its supporters to protest. Her son and advisor, Sajib Wazed, said the party will block the February elections if the ban is not lifted, and warned of violence. And Hasina, who has been living in exile in India since her ouster, rejected what she calls the politically motivated ruling.
Millions of Bangladeshis toiling under the chaotic, violent and socially regressive administration of Dr. Muhammad Yunus will not be fooled by this attempt to shortchange them of their democratic rights. Their purpose was to scapegoat the Awami League and to distract the world's attention from the failings of Dr. Yunus and his ministers.
In the middle of this turmoil, Yunus' interim government is trying to put the country back on track. He announced that alongside the February polls, Bangladesh will also vote on a reform charter drafted after last year's uprising.
We should not tarnish the glory of the unity that the countrymen built by standing tall in the face of death against fascism in July 2024 by engaging in petty disagreements and trivial disputes.
A Dhaka-based rights organisation has reported that political violence has claimed at least 281 lives since Hasina was overthrown, and documented 40 extrajudicial killings. For many Bangladeshis, Hasina's verdict feels like long-awaited justice. Yet will it truly help build a new Bangladesh, or plunge the country deeper into chaos and division?
So what now for Bangladesh in the wake of this verdict? Well, joining me now to debate that and more are from London, Human Rights Secretary at the Bangladesh Nationalist Party in the UK, Hossain Shamsuzzoha, also known as Barrister Zoha. Also from London, Bangabondhu Awami Lawyers UK representative Monirul Islam, and from Washington, former director of the South Asia Institute at the Wilson Center, Michael Kugelman. Thanks all so much for being with me. Michael, I'll start with you because you weren't surprised by the verdict or the sentence, from what I understand. But do you believe it's just? And will this verdict and sentence actually stand?
Well, I mean, this had been a pledge made by the interim government in Bangladesh soon after it took office, after Sheikh Hasina's ouster, to pursue legal means to prosecute her for the incredibly bloody, deadly crackdown against protesters in the mass uprising. One that, according to the UN, resulted in 1,400 deaths, which is an incredible number of deaths. And this was a priority for the government all along. And the mood, I would argue, in Bangladesh, among many, has been that she deserves justice and that she deserves the harshest sentence. Now, certainly there had been some concerns voiced by her supporters, Hasina's supporters, and her party and her defense about the conditions of the trial, including the concern that it was too swift and that it didn't take enough time, not enough resources were given to the defense. My sense, as so far as I can see as an analyst, is that it was a process that took place with credibility. Now, in terms of whether the sentence will stand, we'll see. I would argue that the way things are in Bangladesh now, the Awami League does not really have many resources and capacity to push back against what the government is doing. Though, of course, theoretically, per the law, her defense should have the opportunity to appeal and to contest the verdict if it chooses to do so, which I'm sure it will, because it's clearly rejected the whole process as a sham. But I suspect that this will stand. But final point I'll make, she is not going to be extradited back to Bangladesh. Let's make that clear. She's been in India since she left, and India has always viewed her as a critical ally. And even though there's an extradition treaty between Bangladesh and India,
you know what? I'm going to stop
I would be
you there.
stunned if she was sent back.
Yeah, I want to talk further about that as a separate issue. But first, I'd like to look a little bit further at the verdict today. So, Monirul, I'll ask you your opinion, because her supporters will say it, of course, didn't go unnoticed, that those attending the court proceedings today, both inside and outside the courthouse, really burst into cheers when the verdict was announced, though many of them were the victims' families and associates. But still, does Sheikh Hasina and the Awami League see that, as evidence of sorts that the trial was not impartial and that they were not given a fair defense?
What I would like to say that, that if Sheikh Hasina or anyone do criminal act, it is the responsibility of the country to try the criminality. But the thing is that crime against humanity, International Crimes Tribunal Act, has been designed to try 1971 war criminal. You know that according to the Rome Statute, there are 4 crimes which could be tried in international criminal style, like genocide, crime against humanity, aggression, and war crime. In 1973, Parliament of Bangladesh enacted this law to try the criminals of war criminal of 1971. Now, 2024, there was no war in Bangladesh. So if Sheikh Hasina, as a Prime Minister of Bangladesh, did anything wrong, the state has the responsibility or state has the right to trial her, but not in this trial. This is unconstitutional, illegal. Not only that, the scope of 1973 Act does not allow the state, does not allow the judges to try for 2024, the trial. One thing.
Okay, so you're saying the court itself is not appropriate, and under the Constitution should not have tried this case.
Yes. Secondly, give me one more thing. The appointment of judges are illegal because, in accordance with the Constitution of Bangladesh, Article 96(1) clearly stated that any judges 67 years old should be retired. That means he is no more capable to sit in High Court Division or Supreme Court, Appellate Division, or any court in the country.
Okay, so therefore, on those grounds, do you plan to appeal? And if so, I mean, this is more appealing on technical issues rather than the actual verdict itself and the evidence presented against her.
No. This is a political vendetta. This is a vindictive mentalities, of the Yunus government and the 1971 war criminals. And that you can go for appeal only on the basis of the law. But this is not on the basis of the law. The trial itself, it is illegal. Who will give the verdict in favor of the humanity, in favor of the rule of law? Because we do not believe that this is the trial where the international crimes trial law will apply. Because Sheikh Hasina was the prime minister of the country to save the people of the country and to save the property of the country. It is her responsibility to take the initiative to stop the people who are killing the people, who are burning the properties of the state.
Well, let me ask Barrister Zoha quickly. I mean, which is it? Is it a judicial independence at work here, or was this court used as a political weapon? And is the death penalty really appropriate here?
Now, obviously, a few questions you asked me, and not exactly the same question you asked the previous panelist. The first question to be asked is it fair and just? The tribunal proceedings, is it fair and just? Now, the answer to that is, obviously, it is fair and just. And even you would notice that the defense lawyer himself, Mr. Amir Hussain, I guess his name is, he himself said the proceedings was fair. There was nothing unfair about the proceedings. What he said, or what his concern was, as the defendant were not present, the matter was judged, matter was on trial in absentia, he could not have the witness statement from the defendant. That was his problem. Now, this is understandable, but that is not the fault lies with the state or with anyone. This is a fault lies with the defendant themselves. If they ran away and if they fled the country, how can they provide, evidence or witness statement? David Bergman, he's a journalist, British journalist. He also expressed his satisfaction with the overall proceedings, with the overall trial. Due process was followed, and fair and just judgment has been passed. Now, if someone, turns out to be an ex-prime minister, and there is a support, certain set of people supports her, doesn't mean that she is above the law. So there is no reason not to accept this fair judgment. My friend from Awami League, he just talked about the legality of the constitution of the International Crime Tribunal. That is what he was talking about. He was not talking about whether it was a fair trial or unfair trial. The overall question is whether it is a fair trial or unfair trial. And I can say with certainty that this was a fair trial. Even international lawyer like Tommy Cadman has been appointed as an advisor, a special advisor to the prosecutor to make sure international obligations have been complied with. So these are the things that makes a trial fair. I would say this was a fair trial, and people accepted it with pleasure.
I'll see. As far as people accepting it then with pleasure, let me ask Michael a little more about that, because so far there are no signs of the deadly violence that some had even predicted. But is that because Bangladeshis are comfortable with the verdict, or is it just a question of, security forces actually preventing any reaction or protests on the streets for now?
Well, Bangladesh's politics are very polarized. They always have been, and certainly right now. And you have many different political parties and factions that are divided on a number of issues. But I would argue that on the issue of justice for Sheikh Hasina, and the issue of a trial and a legal process for her, there's a fair amount of unity, uniting a number of parties beyond her own party. And so in that sense, I would argue that many in Bangladesh we're very pleased to see this process play out and likely supported the verdict, again, excluding her party. But here, there's a critical point to bring up here. Hasina and her party continue to enjoy a considerable base in Bangladesh. The Awami League is, Bangladesh's original political party. It came out of Hasina's father, independence hero, and Bangladesh's first post-independence leader. Despite what I would describe as the horrific things that the Hasina security forces did against peaceful protesters last year, this is a party that continues to have a base, and it has been suppressed by the interim government. The leadership, much of the leadership has been, there's been significant levels of efforts to sideline the leadership. and it's very difficult for supporters of the party to come out and protest. Though it doesn't help that I would argue that that there have been a number of attempts by supporters of her party to come out on the streets, and some of them have become violent. So my point is that even though there's a lot of support across political lines for this process and the verdict, she continues to have a base, which suggests to me that the polarization that we've seen over the last few months will continue and does raise the risks of violence as we get closer to election campaigning in advance of the February polls.
Let me ask Monirul Islam about that. As per the recent spike in political violence, we've seen some more than 30 explosions reported over the weekend. Buses were torched. Police arrested Awami League activists. So is this an indication, do you think, of what's to come, or was this just a lead up to the verdict? Or do you feel that Awami League supporters will have to respond going forward in whatever way they feel appropriate, violent or otherwise?
Look, this is like tightening the hand. You are just raping someone. This is something like that. You already banned Awami League. You already banned Awami League allies. So how can they protest? This is a criminal offense to fight in favor of Awami League. So the international human rights person, my friend who is speaking about Bangladesh and Bangladeshi people, I born in Bangladesh. I saw the Bangladesh and I know the Bangladesh. 40%, more than 40% people are along with Bangabondhu's party, Awami League. Today, just let the people to withdraw the sanction. You will see people tomorrow in the street because it is illegal. People are law abiding. If you say that 1,400 people were killed, the Yunus government is 1 year, more than 1 year in power. He find out 700 people. So where is the remaining 700? That means those 700 people was Awami League. They have been killed. Meticulous design, part of a meticulous design by the Yunus government and Jamaat Islami and all those militant groups. Bangladesh is a country where politics is always a vital part. You know, we saw two autocratic army government, Ershad government, Ziaur Rahman government. Then we saw Moinuddin Fakhruddin government. Now we are observing the government of Dr. Yunus. I told you that the judges, trial, one is trial 1, one is trial 2. Do you know who is the prosecutor? Do you know who is the defense lawyer? My friend says that defense lawyer says it is fair. Defense lawyer himself is the part of the political game. He is the Jamaat Islami activist. Where is the rule of law? Where is the biasness? Do you know that in this trial, Justice Monirul Islam is 73 years old. Bangladesh Constitution Article 90, subparagraph 1 clearly says that after 67 years, no one is eligible to be a justice of the Supreme Court or High Court.
Okay.
How can he be a judge? And one more thing. Please,
yes, you mentioned.
Please, just give me 1 minute. I just make clear one point. 3 judges, out of the 3 judges, no judges ever sit for any trial. This is their first trial. You are trying a prime minister of a country and you are giving the death sentence. But those 3 judges are challenged. They've never been in a single judgment in the High Court division. That means this is a political game.
That's what you... Yes, we got that in your analysis, again, saying you don't believe that the trial was neither fair nor constitutionally correct. But let me ask on the question of the political violence and what the response could be going forward. Barrister Zoha, we've seen these attacks over the weekend. People are in fear that political violence will actually increase, as it did in the lead up to this verdict, and now beyond, because the Awami League is still banned from political activity, in spite of a support base. So, Barrister Zoha, what are your fears for the political violence going forward if the ban on Awami League activity is not lifted?
Look, Awami League...
Please allow Barrister Zoha to answer. Go ahead.
You know, in order for chaos to be created, in order for criminal activities to be taking place, you don't need hundreds and millions of people to come out to cause the criminal activities. only few hundred or few dozen people can kill hundreds of people. Sheikh Hasina believed in criminal activities. She was in power with using the police, the RAB, the army, her own gangsters and terrorist supporters to use them in order to stay in power. Her father, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who actually killed more than 26,000 opponents in one go. And history of Awami League is to inflict criminal brutalities on the oppositions. This is what Awami League is about. Sheikh Hasina, instead of being remorseful about her actions, killing innocent protesters, innocent students, she is ordering further killing, further carnage on the people of Bangladesh. What kind of human being is she? She is almost 80 now, and she is saying, you have all this on record. Even BBC showed that her voice, what she said online, and what she ordered to commit criminal activities further in Bangladesh, this is all her voices. So she is a lady who is prone to committing brutalities, who is prone to committing atrocities, and this is a time when she must face justice.
Okay.
And in order to, can I just make one point regarding Barrister Monirul said? He said Ziaur Rahman was autocratic. How dare he says that? Ziaur Rahman is the man who opened multi-party system. He is the man who allowed Awami League. Awami League was banned by Sheikh Mujibur himself. And he is the man who allowed Awami League to do politics again. And this is why Sheikh Hasina came in power. So calling Ziaur Rahman, Shahid President Ziaur Rahman is an autocratic, is a big joke. And
okay.
it doesn't go along with him nicely.
Okay, I'm wondering, Michael, if you have an opinion on that. And also, I'd like to bring back the India extradition question. You've said they won't extradite her, nor will they extradite the former Home Minister. So what would be the consequences of that as well on Awami League supporters in Bangladesh and India-Bangladeshi relations?
Yeah, well, on that, I mean, the India-Bangladesh relationship had previously been a very solid one because, as I said, Hasina has been a close ally of India for many years. But once she was ousted and once you had new political realities in Bangladesh, including one that really created more space for actors that are not particularly inclined to support India, you know, the relationship between the two countries really plummeted. And I don't think that there's any serious view in Bangladesh that India would actually turn Hasina over to the Bangladesh government. I don't think there's a view of that. But certainly, you know, the fact that India will not turn her over is not going to help this relationship between the two countries. I think we have to wait to see what happens after Bangladesh's election when you'll have an elected administration. I suspect that New Delhi will be more inclined to engage with the elected government in Bangladesh compared to the current one. And I suspect that the next Bangladesh government will also want to try to patch things up with India, even if Hasina continues to be there. Though I will say this, that, you know, no matter who leads the next government in Bangladesh, so long as Hasina is still in India, particularly if she's making noise and, you know, making speeches online and all of that, you know, that's going to continue to be a thorn in the side of the India-Bangladesh relationship.
And quickly, Michael, Awami League supporters, as you know, have complained about, you know, foreign influence, particularly over the course of the last year and a half. Where do you see those complaints going? Is it fomenting further dissatisfaction among her supporters? Because there are actually complaints that there was foreign interference in this trial.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, Hasina's supporters will take the lead of Hasina, and it is notable that recently Hasina has toned down her accusations against the West in particular, indicating that they were not necessarily responsible for her ouster, which I never thought that it was to start with. But if we're hearing sort of a softer position from Hasina on this issue of foreign influence, then I think her supporters will follow suit for sure.
Okay. Michael, that will have to be the final word for this edition of the Newsmakers. I apologize to my other two panelists, but the clock is entirely against us, so that will have to finish this program. But thank you so much, all three of you, for being with me, and a big thanks to our viewers as well for joining us. And remember, of course, you can follow us on social media, and do be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Andrea Sankey. We'll see you next time.